What's going on, everybody? How are you? We've missed you. It's been a week.
It's been 1 week since our last meeting. And every day
Doggone it, we've missed you. Good to see you again.
I craved your
I
touch and your eyes looking at me. Just a little more.
I have nothing
Yeah.
to say to what the hell's going on right now. And it's funny because all this unintentionally, all of this is going to loop into what we're talking about. Okay. Which is going to be just completely, yeah, it's just going to be wild, is what's going to
Yes.
happen. So,
Yes. Yes.
yeah. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, see now, yeah, I can't even freaking talk now because you're just, yeah,
I screwed you up,
yeah, oh yeah, all the time, man. It's amazing we even put on a damn show. Good
huh?
lord. Hi, Mac. This asshat's Alamo, and we, by the grace of God, put on a podcast when we get around to it, and we're not too busy being asshats in harmony. So yeah, welcome to the show, and we're gonna try to repair that first impression that we just trashed because of Dingbat over here. So yeah, uh-huh. Um, so if you have not been on a show before, thank you for stopping by. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. We are two friends that have been friends for a long damn time. We both joined the military post 9/11 as part of the GWAT generation. Um, Alamo was active duty. I was in the National Guard for about 6 years. So we kind of covered all ends of the experience, so to speak. But we have a podcast where we talk about things related to the military and veteran communities. Um, we'll kind of get further into that and delve into it a little bit farther at the back end. So bear with us.
Who?
If you caught our last show last week, we did episode 120, 120, and we talked about family. This week we're gonna have a little bit of a different conversation. Why are you adding so much to the title? Like, just what I tell you, like just one word. We don't have to add all this extra stuff. Now I gotta go back and change my notes and stuff to make it match. And I'm just like, damn it, man. You put in uniform and beyond up here on the notes for 121. Just we talked about leaving it short. All that stuff. I don't know why you add all that. Anyway, so funny enough.
Algorithm recognition.
Well, okay. Makes sense, I guess. Um so yeah, we don't have any news to talk about this week that we could find. So nothing really kind of stuck out to us. So we're gonna nix that all together. So this week we're gonna just get right into it. Literally, just dive into the deep end of the pool. This week is episode 121, and we are talking about the subject as it relates to veterans, the subject of control. Okay. Now we could go a lot of different places with this. I was talking to one of our good friends and confidants and sources, and he was like, "Dude, you could go into any one of these topics that are covered under this, and we could talk about it for a good week." I'm like, "Broad brushstroke, got it." He was like, "Yeah, absolutely."
That's a valid statement, I would say.
Oh, 100%, 100%. So we're just gonna kind of keep this generalized a little bit, kind of talk about a few things here and there. So, what is the definition of control? So, there's two definitions I'm going to give you. For the part of speech of being a noun, control is defined as the power to influence or direct people's behavior or the course of events. As a verb, the definition is to determine the behavior or supervise the running of. Pretty much just the action as opposed to the nitty gritty of what it is. Okay. So, why is control a big topic when it comes to veterans? Well, and also with the military. So, let's think about that. Okay. When you join the military, okay, brand new private coming in, private airman, lowest dude on the totem pole, E1, E nothing, all that stuff. You are pretty much seceding control of anything to those over top of you. And what I mean by that is
Rectamundo.
your training advisor, your training instructor, your drill instructor, your drill sergeant, whatever the case may be. You pretty much have that everything about your day dictated by somebody else. Immediate first line supervisors, drill sergeants, all that good stuff, all the way down going up from there from the company first sergeant, company commander, and then higher headquarters and all that kind of stuff. Okay. So it's really not something you're going to experience too much of, if at all, at first. Okay. So understand that it's going to get to a point where you have no control. You're going to start off with no control and get to a point of having a little bit of control. So, like, the thing I can immediately remember, talking about basic training for me and probably for Alamo as well. I went through in 03. You went through in 2005.
2000? Yeah. 05. Yeah.
05. So we, as at the time, as a basic trainee going through infantry school, you weren't allowed to have hair. You had to have a buzz cut, unless it had grown out for like a week or so. But every so often, you were required to go get a haircut. Go down to the PX.
Supposedly it was for hygiene reasons. People have
Yeah, I get that.
lice and shit like that. Or at least that's what they claimed the reason was for.
And there's a little bit of logic to that. I get that.
Yeah.
Also, just the fact, like, it just makes you have to suffer through everything when you're trying to sit there and focus, and sweat is literally just running down the front of your face like a damn waterfall in the Amazon forest.
Mhm.
Trying to focus on a rifle range or do something where you have to look and focus, and just it's always doing this crap. It sucks. So once you graduated, once you kind of went through your cross rifle ceremony, then you were allowed to get a regulation high and tight. Before that, you had to look pretty much like this. Okay.
Mhm.
So you had a little bit of control over that. It's like, oh, I get a high and tight now. That's cool. That means I'm not just the average dude going through here. All these thousands of untrained MOS unqualified soldiers around Sand Hill, Georgia, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, there's that. Now, on the flip side of things, let's kind of switch gears here for a little bit. So I brought this up to our good friend Brian. Again, shout out to Brian for always helping us out when we need help with the show. Appreciate it, dude. You're amazing. You're awesome. You rock. Enough kissing your ass for right now. I brought up the topic of control when you're separating from the military. And I was like, hey, I would think that, you get control by, hold on, how the hell did I have this written? Yeah, so you actually, it's like when you leave the service, you actually, gain control back as opposed to losing it or whatnot. And that was kind of contradictory to the opposite. I was thinking like, oh, you have more control now because, yeah, okay, I'm sorry. I had to take a minute and decipher that in my head. I apologize. So you actually, okay, you gain control by getting out, because everything, if you think about it, if you've been in for 20 years, you're an E6 and E7, staff NCO at least, you actually don't have that much control. You're still being told when you got to be there, what you got to wear, what you're doing, all that kind of stuff.
When you can go piss, when you can go shit, when you can shower, shave,
when you eat, all that stuff. Your day-to-day activity is very tightly regulated and controlled and stuff. So even though you're in E6, E7, maybe even up into E8s and whatnot, I would think E9 you have a little bit more say in it because you're the highest level enlisted type dude. You're always going to have a boss over top of you unless you're sergeant major of the army, but then you're answering to a 4-star or whatever. So but anyway, so you actually have a lot of things taken care of for you, and you gain control by getting out of the military, and it's actually okay, that's what I meant. So that actually is a little bit opposite of the perception. It's like you gain control back because you're not being dictated to do what you're going to be doing during the day or all that kind of jazz. But that's what freaks guys out, and they're just like, they're like, I don't know what to
Oh
do.
yeah,
I'm not.
that's the contrast. Is like you're so used to having all those things being told to you when to go, where to go, how to do it, and all that stuff. You get out, and then all of a sudden you don't have anybody telling you that anymore, and you're trying to think to yourself like, what the fuck should I do? Well, looks like I'm gonna go over here and go to
Go
work and
off. Yeah.
go over there and pay my mortgage and my rent or whatever. You know, a
My
lot of
older
guys.
brother my older brother said something funny one time. He saw a guy, he was up near a military base somewhere. I forget where it was, but he saw some guy you could tell was fresh out of boot camp. I mean, just a crisp, nice looking freaking high and tight haircut. And you're standing in line at like a Checkers, like a fast food joint or something, and the dude didn't know how to stand. He's like, "Do I stand at attention? Do I stand at parade rest? Do I stand at kick it with the homies?" Like, eh. And he actually watched this guy change his stance several times in about the span of about 30 seconds. And he was like, "It's kind of amusing, but like and he had to ask me about it at a later time." And I was like, "Well, yeah, because if you're standing in line, you're standing at parade rest with everybody else." And he's like, "Oh, okay." So he kind of figured out why that was a little bit of like a
No.
sign of such a hard deal because it's like I have the power to choose. Huh? So
Yeah, I mean, I think I went through that shit.
yeah,
Especially after being on active duty for as long as I was. I mean, it wasn't like 15 years like some of the guys that I was in the unit with, right? But you know, 4 years pretty much. And over that time frame, you know, I feel like it's almost like a thing you tend to lose control because you don't have that controlled environment to really kind of keep you uh level headed and balanced, if you will.
sure.
um and I think that's what a lot of guys struggle with. I'm pretty sure pretty much everybody struggles with it, that once they exit.
And we
um
have we have an article that we're going to read that actually kind of touches on that point specifically as one of the bullet points in the article.
yeah,
Separating from the military, going into the civilian side of things, all that kind of junk. But yes, it's and I originally, and it's funny because Brian was like, it's actually the opposite of what you're thinking. I was thinking, oh, you gain control, and it's like, yeah, it's great, and he's like, no, not really. Some of these guys, like, they're so used to having that. It's kind of like I kind of liken it to like a mental autopilot. Like, okay, first formation's at 05, whatever. Uniform is this, PT gear, doing this, blah 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 blah. 3 mile run, whatever the case may be. Go to chow, go do this, go do that, bang out all this other stuff. So yeah, it's kind of like you don't really have to make a lot of hard choices. So, control's not always a good thing because it's like you're in control and it's like, oh crap, it relies on me. I don't have somebody telling me what to do. Oh,
Especially when you're in the lower ranks too. When
oh
you're in
yeah.
the lower ranks, your decision making is limited to what you as an individual can do in your squad, and
Should I just double time it because
team.
I'm running late, or should I cut across Sergeant Major's grass?
Yeah. Whereas, obviously,
By the
it
way,
kind
the
of
answer to that question is always no.
no. Um
Negative.
the what you
Food for
call it?
thought.
The Because when you think about where your leaders are in terms of what they have to do, the decisions they have to make, the amount of people under them, you know, they're in control of so much more compared to what you're in control of at that point in time, you know. Whereas as a private, for example, a lot of these guys, some of them get out and kind of like where we are, where we got out as E4s, right? Some of us may have been team leaders, some of us may not have been. You get out and I contrast it because I went through it. Um, you have this issue where you get out, and because you didn't have the amount of responsibilities that your, say, for example, like your leaders had. um of course you were responsible for a lot of shit. You were responsible for keeping your stuff tight up, keeping your equipment clean, keeping the equipment you drive manageable, right?
Individual equipment is accounted for at all times.
Individual equipment, but when you get out and you're just responsible for yourself and you're responsible for the things around you, making sure you get to work on time, making sure that you keep your vehicle, like, it's hard to explain, but when things are not regimented, I guess you could say,
Yeah.
if you will, that's when things can kind of spiral, and I think that's where a lot of guys lose it. But I think you said the article is going to cover that too, right?
In one various in except a couple of various ways, but yeah. And it's funny you brought up a couple interesting points. Two things I want to hit on with what to buttress what you were talking about. Number one, how like it's interesting. You look at like how we can handle so much when the world's falling apart, things are literally blowing up beside you, all hell is breaking loose. And then you get a guy where it's like, okay, he was in a car accident, and they're just like super calm because they have the control to know, okay, I got all this other stuff, this white noise in the background over here going on, but I can still control what I'm doing. So, like, when something is, out of control in the civilian side of things, it's like, okay, that's really not that bad. Just put a
Yeah,
tourniquet on it, drink water, take Motrin, and we're going to wait for the paramedics to show up. Cool.
yeah.
Another point you made talking about like how we both got it as E4s, and one of the other bullet points I made down here. So along with control kind of comes the whole, personality. You're gonna have a little bit more personality, a slightly different personality being in control. So like when you have guys like us that are E4s and are now promoted to a sergeant, promoted to E5, they're a team leader now. So now they're in control of certain things. It's like you kinda get on, and I was Brian actually reminded me of somebody, a mutual acquaintance of both of ours, how this person, when they made E5, they really kinda went off the deep end when it comes to the power trip because they were in control, and it's like, certain things you do, but you don't do as a leader. Like, you have to obviously be in charge of the bigger picture with a lot of different things.
Right.
And I've had this experience myself where the experience that I had, it's a little bit different, but I had I had a guy come up to me. He was in my chain of command, and he was like, "Hey, my weapon's clean. Just turn it in to the arms room." Roger that. The company commander was coming through doing spot checks. He goes, "Is this your rifle?" I'm like, "Negative, sir. I'm turning in for unsaid member of my chain of command." So he shotguns it open, takes it apart, pulls the bolt carrier group, sticks his finger down the star chamber. He goes, I was like, Roger, sir. No excuse. We'll take care of it. He's like, whose weapon is this? I'm like, all due respect, sir, I don't want to say because I don't want to have that come back on me. He goes, no, 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 you're good. You're good. I'm like, and I told him, he goes, okay, we'll take care of that. It's like, you're good, Mac. You're good. If anything happens, you come tell me immediately. And what was interesting too, because we had at the time I was in that company, we had a third of the dudes in the company commander, one of the sergeants I had, and my squad leader were all like prior service Marines. Like a third of the dudes were prior service Marines. So we kind of infused quite a few like military, like Marine kind of culture into that, like the way they did certain things or gave certain commands or something like that. It's like, okay, that's interesting. But Captain Delaporte and the guy that I mentioned that I didn't mention were both prior service Marines. So he's like, aha. So
Did
he's
and did not mention.
plausible deniability. So yeah, so I never heard anything about it, and it got taken care of. But I was just like, that's kind of a, a dick move. It's like you're just gonna like you're not gonna check it over. You're just gonna say, "Oh yeah, it's good," and then like in that instance, like it came right back on me because he's like, he's like, "Oh, is this your weapon?" I'm like, "Okay, just eat the bullet. Just bite the bullet, take it, and eat it, and all that shit, whatever." Not eatable. I'm sorry, that's not how I meant to say that, but, like, just, like, you're in a shit situation, just eat it, come out the other side, and he was just like, "No, we're gonna rectify this." I'm just like, "Oh, no, like, this is gonna be bad." So, but in that position, in that certain situation, I felt like I didn't have a lot of control. I was just like, "I don't wanna do this because the control is gonna rapidly leave my sphere of influence, and I'm gonna get hemmed up for the fucking rest of drill." Jesus. So but but yeah, like that whole control thing, like when guys get promoted to sergeant, like they kind of some guys kind of turn into control freaks. They want to do everything. Another good example, I had a soldier that was he was in ROTC at the time, but he was what they call an SMP, a simultaneous membership program. So he was a cadet. He wasn't a he wasn't a dot, like he wasn't wearing ROTC rank insignia. He was actually enlisted, but he was coming to drill and doing all this stuff, but he's gonna get his commission. And he was made team leader over myself and another guy who is again another guy who was a prior service marine, a good friend of mine. And he like we had both deployed. My buddy deployed at least once with Marines. I deployed to Afghanistan, and it wasn't a bad dude. He just probably watched too many like war movies and just felt like he had to you know, boss us around and all this stuff. It's like, dude, trust your guys, man. It's like you
Yeah.
don't need to control everything. You need to control which way my dangle is when I'm utilizing the wood line. Like, so it's kind of an interesting thing, man. Like you see a lot of different ways that comes into play and how people either use it, abuse it, or it gets neglected. So
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely, for sure. I 100% agree on that.
yeah. So um and then you also put a bunch of different things here. I'm gonna let you talk on those because I mean they're good quotes and stuff. I wanted you to kind of that was
Yeah.
your thing, so I'm gonna let you deep dive in that for a little bit and take a
Yeah.
quick break from talking. So go for it.
So I have a few quotes from a few philosophizers throughout the years, to include, old generals, one of the great philosophers, aka Plato, and also Epictetus, a Greek guy. He was actually imprisoned in Rome for a while too. It's just really freaking nuts. Them damn Romans, man, they got around. Um,
Yeah, they did.
in many ways. Um, Now, when we talk about control, there's one aspect of control that I feel is very um very I guess you could say important. It's the control over oneself, and learning how to control one's emotions, learning how to control you know what you can control, which is yourself. Um and I think that um, there's a great lesson we can glean from understanding that many things are going to get out of our control, and that it is just what it is. It's gonna Things are gonna get out of control. We can't control that. What we can control is ourselves. Um, One of the great philosophers, aka John Milton himself, said, "He who reigns within himself and rules passions, desires, and fears is more than a king." Um, I mean, you have Marcus Aurelius, a great Roman general, or I believe it was also, I believe didn't he end up becoming a Roman emperor? Oh my God, why am I having a brain fart?
Keep talking. I'll look that up.
Pretty sure he became a Roman emperor as well. But he says the happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. take control of what you think about. Um,
Real quick, yes, he was the Roman emperor from 161 to 180.
yeah,
I'm assuming that's AD,
yeah,
and a Stoic
20
philosopher.
years.
Yeah.
20 years. Freaking it's a good long that's a good long time for it to be a Roman emperor without getting killed. Um
He was
Also,
he was just shy of 60 when he died.
yeah.
Actually, like just shy of 59, I think.
They didn't live very
58.
long back then.
58. No, they didn't. Well, because they were, you know what it was? Is part of the fact that all the, bowls and
Debauchery.
goblets, well, the debauchery, syphilis was rampant, number one. But number two, all the like bowls and everything was made out of lead. So that's kind of
That
helping
too.
to whack, schwack everybody off as well. So
You said schwack everybody off. Um
why do you got to make it dirty? Like, just shut up. Just stop.
there was
So this is what
also
I meant. Let me. No, we're gonna take a sidebar. This is what I meant earlier, folks, when I said I have no control over what this ding dot bat is gonna say, and it's amazing that we put on a podcast because it's very rare. It's very commonly not in anybody's control of what the hell's gonna happen. So, yeah, butterfly effect. What? Anyway, keep
yes.
going from there.
So there's also Epictetus, who I'm not gonna lie, I've only just recently heard of him. Um, Probably over like the last year or so when I was like looking up, different quotes and stuff like that from different philosophers. So I'm really not too familiar. Like I said, very evidently he was imprisoned in Rome for a time. He was a Greek man. I don't remember what it was that he was put in prison for, but he was held for a long time and then, eventually finally released. But he apparently is a very prolific individual through, in the philosophy square as well as within, history, world history. He says there's only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power or our will. He says that to basically kind of say, kind of double tap on what I was saying before. Like there's only so much that we can control. Like, and even sometimes the things within our bubble can be they can get out of our, because we can't control our kids, right? Our kids are going to be asshats no matter what. Can't control our spouses. We can't control our parents. We can't control anything within our sphere but ourselves. And that is one of the things that, in all honesty, like I think it's one of the big important things to take away from this is that to control oneself is to control one's destiny, if you will. Um, I feel like somebody said that, but not exactly the way I said it, and I can't remember who. Um, you have to understand that in the realm of in the realm of this subject of control, we're going to run into situations where things just get crazy, and you're going to be sitting there thinking like, what the hell, why is this happening? I took every measure, I took every freaking precaution, a b c d blah 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 blah.
Mhm.
um and it still gets still gets nuts, um but what we can do is control ourselves. What can we do in the situation to prevent things from getting further out of control? And the only thing, like I said, the one common denominator that comes back to is controlling how we handle it. How do we control ourselves in that situation? Because if you're out of control yourself, you're just going to be well, let's be honest,
A
you're going to
live fucking ability.
a liability, and you're going to add to the problem. It just is what it
I
is.
hope you folks know what that reference is. That's Rocco from Boondock Saints, by the way. That so yeah, if you, I hope you know what that reference. If not, I feel old. But yeah,
Great movie, by the way.
fantastic movie,
Um, you
cult classic.
know, and it's crazy too, because like, not to get too philosophical, um,
I'm sorry. What?
so
What the
you
hell
know,
did you try to say, my man?
if philosophical,
Thank you.
um, if you get,
You got me mad
um,
twisted, boo. Like, come on there, man.
you know, there's a there's a contrast to that as well in my person in not again I'm gonna get a little philosophical at the moment. Like, you see the world today, everything's in chaos, all this other shit, right? So the world is in chaos for one simple reason. The embracing of just allowing one's impulses to control oneself. And the one thing I mentioned before is, like, you can only control yourself, right? You can control your impulses. Well, in this world today, we have normalized the, I guess you could say, not the not control of impulses, or the lack of control of impulses. We've
Impulse
encouraged,
control.
we have, yeah, we have stigmatized impulse control, and said that, and have basically said that impulse control is something that doesn't need to be done, because it's our true self. It's our true selves. It's our true whatever, our true desires.
You
Um,
impulsively want to call somebody a racial slur in a gas station, and a dude smacks you across the head with a can of twisted tea. It's like, all right, yeah,
yeah. Well, you
you're
warranted
gonna
that.
you effed around, you found out.
Yeah. Um, I think in our society today, that's one thing that has to be, uh, for lack of better, it has to be stigmatized again. You
Turn back
because
the clock. Yeah.
yeah, it has to be stigmatized again. You have to. We can't just go willy nilly going everywhere and, allowing our inner impulses to control what we do. If you look at how chaotic the world has gotten, a big part of that is because of modern society's standards of what is true and what is proper. Well, unfortunately for modern society, what is true is still true, and that is that you need to control yourself.
So
Just seriously.
let me interject. I'm gonna kind of we're kind of getting a little bit off topic. So and I'm not saying
No,
you're
I
not
get it,
entitled to your opinion. I agree with you
but
on a lot of points of that. Let me
no.
just kind of steer this back the other way. So it's when you were talking about this, and I'm surprised I didn't think about this either. You were talking about control and whatnot, and like personal and control and emotional control. Um, I don't know why, but what I thought of is the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept what I cannot change, the courage to change what I can,
Never
and the
can
wisdom to know the
wisdom to know the
difference.
difference.
And I was looking that up while you were talking, and I was like, huh, there's actually an extended version, and it continues by saying, living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as the pathway to peace. I don't know about all that, but I, know the common form that everybody knows, which is just the wisdom to know the difference, where it ends right there. And that was it gained popularity in the 40s from Alcoholics Anonymous. And it was credited to a guy named Reinhold Niebuhr, who authored it between 1932 and 1933. But if you think about it, it does. It's like, change what you can, but know that there's some things you can't that are outside of your control or your influence that you cannot. And I think a lot of what you were talking about too, one of the points I do want to kind of hit on a little bit with this, especially when it comes to us veterans and military folks, is emotional control. Like, that is
Yes.
controlling your emotions and centering yourself, and just having that wherewithal to just be like, okay, hey, you know, it's like, like there's a raging dumpster fire over there. What are you doing? Just keep my hands warm. I got no control over that, but hey. It's cold outside, and I'm gonna keep my hands warm and stuff.
Kind of
But
like that meme with the little dog in the bob hat, and he's just like, "Oh, the whole room's on fire. Oh, this is fine."
yeah. But like Robin Williams made a joke about it when he was talking about the Buddhist monks during Vietnam who immolated themselves. And
Yes.
they were like, "What the fuck are you doing?" He's like, "Making you deal with your shit." It's like, it's like there's a little bit of truth to that. It's like, all right, they're gonna protest that way. Like you can't watch that kind of shit. They're
Nope.
protesting a situation that is way outside of their control by making a very direct, powerful statement. But anyway, getting back to that, what is, dude? It's escaping me right now, and I'm gonna feel so stupid when I realize what the name of the book about like mastering yourself and everything around you. It's like required reading. Um I think it Sun Tzu. What book did he write?
Sun Tzu wrote The Art of War.
That's it, The Art of War. Jesus, why was that escaping my brain
I
right
have
now?
that book, by the way.
I might need to borrow it and read it. So
Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, he talks about it. It's like, in that book, there's a lot of great examples of things you can do to just kind of help yourself stay in control, even though things are not exactly in a controlled state. It's a state of chaos and upheaval around you and whatnot. So there you go.
Yeah.
How many pages is it? What
Oh,
the hell?
this is practically a freaking dissertation. It's like the actual text itself goes up to um oh snap. He actually has a couple of different sections in here, but it goes up to four. The actual text goes up to 421.
Yeah, I need to check that out.
You sure do, pal.
But anyway, so getting back to the emotional control thing, and I see that a lot. Maybe just because of I'm constantly at work and stuff, but I see that a lot with like the younger kids nowadays. Like they don't seem, maybe it's the fact that I'm working in a school with younger kids, so the emotional control thing is still something that's developing, and they're having to kind of figure that out as they grow up and mature into being slightly older and whatnot.
Yeah.
um but and I hate to kind of generalize, but it just seems like a lot of younger kids nowadays, like especially like in the middle school and in the high school, the emotional control just kind of either seems to be lacking or just non-existent. So
I blame tech.
I think it's a very
The constant.
diverse. Well, there's that. I think there's a lot of different things that have contributed to that over the last 10, 15 years, 20 years. So
Most assuredly. Yes.
but anyway, as I mentioned earlier, there was an article that we found where it talked about some things where it might help. It might seem like veterans when they get out,
Damn,
it gets out of control and everything else. So they,
blocked it out.
what happened?
Can't. No, I wrote meow on this card, and now you can't see it. Meow, what you trying to say, meow?
Can you stop?
No.
Like you're fucking with my Zen thing, man. Like just stop, dude.
The dude abides.
That's the best line that he had from Tron Legacy. He's like, Sam, you're messing with my Zen thing, man. I was just like, oh, that's Lebowski. That's awesome.
That's why I say the dude abides.
So, this article is entitled Seven Common Problems Veterans Face and How to Address Them. It is from missionrollcall.org. Article was written 18 August of 2024. So, it's a little over a year old and stuff. So, I'm going to start reading this. If you're watching at home, Alva's going to pull it up on the screen here momentarily, but I'm just going to start reading over the article as is. So, here we go. The immense value of military service is not always reflected in veterans' experiences upon leaving the military. They often face problems related to difficulties in transitioning from military life to civilian life, which can involve navigating complex bureaucracy to accessing benefits, the effects of traumatic or moral injuries, and systemic gaps in mental health services. Veterans' common stressors can impact family, social, and professional relationships. To make matters worse, many civilians may not be aware of or fully understand these unique issues. Mission Roll Call aims to give veterans a unified voice on issues that matter to them. Through online polls, in person outreach across the country, and social media, we identify and highlight the unique needs of our country's veterans to encourage greater support from legislators and among communities. Here are the 7 most common challenges U.S. veterans face. They list them off here, but I'm going to kind of start reading through them. Number 1, difficulties transitioning from active duty to civilian life. What difficulties do veterans face when transitioning from the military? An estimated 250,000 men and women leave or retire from the U.S. military service and return to civilian life each year. As of 2023, there were a reported 17.9 million former service members in the U.S. in transitioning to civilian life, navigating in the VA healthcare system, finding affordable housing, and applying for jobs can present difficult challenges. According to Mission Roll Call poll, 85% of veterans said they have felt the Military Transition Assistance Program did not prepare them well for leaving military service. When on active duty, service members received food and housing assistance along with comprehensive health care. The process of securing a job that allows them to provide for their families in the same way and assures the same kind of financial security in a new phase of life is not easy, especially for those with a service connected disability. Veterans can experience social and relational challenges with family and friends post service as well. Shifting from service related responsibilities to the demands of civilian life and new work environments is a distinct journey that others are not usually able to relate to. The VA's Transition Assistance Program, known as TAP, provides tools, information, and resources to service members and their loved ones to help prepare them for transition to civilian life. Yet its broad approach to aiding veterans is not sufficient preparation in many cases. Veteran feedback published in the Journal of Veteran Studies underscores this. Its 2020 article exploring what a successful transition model could look like notes that more attention should be given to adjusting to, quote, new work / educational / cultural settings, meeting family transitional needs, financial management issues, procuring housing, dealing with trauma responses, or assuring that veterans truly obtain the benefits and support they need, end quote. Simply put, veterans would benefit from clear, comprehensive roadmaps and support for the significant life change. The VA must enhance its initiatives and programs to effectively prepare veterans. Number 2, experiencing PTS and gaps in mental health support. First off, I will say on a side note, I was very happy to see that they put PTS and not PTSD. They omitted that last letter of the acronym, which was like, okay, good. Let's get some traction. Let's rock and roll.
Yes, sir, Bob.
Do veterans experience post traumatic stress at higher rates than non veterans? That kind of goes without saying, but we're just going to read the article here. Service members can be exposed to combat and non combat situations that can negatively impact their mental health. This, along with systemic gaps in mental health care, can cause veterans to experience post traumatic stress symptoms at higher rates than civilians. PTS has come to be known as the signature wound of veterans of the global war on terror in particular. The VA reports that 15% of veterans who served in Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom in Iraq and Afghanistan, respectively, have experienced PTS symptoms in the past year, and 29% of veterans from those wars will experience PTS at some point in life. Part of the reason is that the GWAT saw a rise in improvised explosive devices, IEDs, and traumatic brain injury, TBI, which can elevate the risk of PTS and other mental health challenges. For instance, an estimated 22% of all OIF and OEF combat wounds were brain injuries, which have been associated with issues such as memory loss, anxiety, depression, and fatigue. The high rates of PTS among veterans have also been connected to concerning rates of veteran suicides, though it's only one of many issues that can contribute to self harm or suicidal ideation. For instance, Brown University's 2021 Costs of War project found that a significant number of GWAT veterans who have died by suicide did not all serve in combat roles. This suggests that the circumstances leading to their death went beyond the common dangers associated with war and could have been attributed to factors like moral wounds, mental health stigmas, and issues in military culture. Additionally, there are systemic healthcare gaps that can prevent veterans from getting the care and support they need for PTS and other mental health conditions. RAND Center for Military Health Policy Research data shows that less than half of veterans in need of mental health services receive treatment, and less than one third of those who do are getting proper evidence based care. The Biden administration announced in 2023 that veterans in suicidal crisis can now receive free emergency medical care at any VA or private care facility, even if they aren't enrolled in the VA system. The new policy, is a step in the right direction. However, no veteran should get to that point. It will take greater coordinated efforts between Congress and the VA to address gaps in veteran mental health care and ensure veterans can receive quality care in a timely manner. Reducing appointment wait times, fixing disparities in rural communities, and expanding community care provisions should be at the forefront of that agenda. Now, number 3 here is going to be one of the ones that I was highlighting earlier as a important talking point, talking about control. Number 3, missing the camaraderie, community, and purpose found while serving. Do veterans lose their sense of purpose once they leave the military?
Yeah.
Though veteran experiences are wide ranging and not narrowly defined, transitioning from the military can be one of the most challenging life changes for an individual and family. Many service members have a sense of identity, purpose, and camaraderie wrapped up in being part of the military, and it's easy for that to feel strained or lost once they leave. The Military Family Advisory Network, MFAN, surveyed, 10,149 military veteran families for its 2023 report on their quality of life and support. More than 59% of military and veteran families reported experiencing feelings of loneliness, an increase from 2021's survey. Fewer than 1 in 5 veterans still felt they had a connection to military life. The unique experiences associated with living. Okay, hold on a second. Let me just take a pause. All right, wet the whistle and try that again. Sorry. The unique experiences associated with leaving the military can impact service members in several ways. On one hand, there are practical challenges like securing employment, housing, and healthcare benefits, along with social factors that can make this change jarring and complex for veterans. Then there are the socio emotional shifts. Veterans may find themselves without a sense of purpose and feeling detached from their military community. This can exacerbate their practical difficulties of adjusting to life after the service, making it harder to cope with the changes. The military also provides structure that's not often found in other work environments. And that's kind of going back to what we were talking about, having your day, having that structure and regimentation in your day, what you're doing, when you're gonna be doing it, uniform you got to wear, all that kind of stuff. A VA funded study on veteran social connectedness and its links to depression found that, quote, among 5 forms of social connectedness, loneliness was tied to the highest levels of depression and suicide ideation or thoughts of committing suicide. Loneliness was also associated with the lowest levels of patient efforts to manage their health and to seek help, end quote. In improving assistance for veterans transitioning to civilian life, adequate focus should be placed on the socio and emotional aspects of this major life change. The VA and veteran service organizations should look towards implementing effective ways to foster support programs for service members, such as community initiatives, mentoring, and connection groups, as they shift to this new chapter. Number 4, access to benefits for underserved veterans. What challenges do veterans face in addressing and accessing their benefits? This is a longer one. Okay, sorry, I scrolled down too far. More than 4 million veterans reside in rural communities across the country. Of the more than 18 million United States veterans, nearly a quarter of them, 4.4 million, live in rural areas. Access to all types of care is important for rural veterans, especially because many rural veterans are at an advanced age, with 54% age 65 or older. Additionally, rural veterans are more likely to be diagnosed with diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity, and heart conditions. These conditions require more frequent, ongoing, and costly care. Among rural veterans are another underserved group, Indigenous veterans, who serve in the U.S. military at higher rates than any other group. There are an estimated 160,000 Indigenous American Indian, Native Hawaiian, and Alaska Native veterans in the United States, and about 39% live in rural areas. According to the VA, tribal veterans are more likely to lack health insurance and have a disability, service related or otherwise. Additionally, Native American health is disproportionately worse than other racial groups in the U.S., with extremely high rates of heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. Providing comprehensive, high quality care to underserved veterans is a challenge, leading to further health disparities among these communities. In transitioning to civilian life, veterans can experience significant challenges when navigating the complexities of VA benefits, particularly as it relates to the VA healthcare system. Blue Star Family's 2023 Family Lifestyle Survey found respondents named access to the military/VA healthcare systems as one of their top concerns. Nearly half of all veterans are unaffiliated with the Department of Veteran Affairs or a veteran service organization. One of these reasons is because for many, VA facilities are backlogged or far away. The VA's Transition Assistance Program does not adequately prepare veterans for the complexities of securing benefits nor the current pitfalls of VA care, such as long wait times and disparities in rural areas. In fact, an April 2022 audit from the VA Department's Inspector General found data on VA healthcare facilities was being reported inconsistently and in a way that conceals true wait times. In a February 2023 report by the Government Accountability Office, the GAO, found that veterans living in rural areas often face unique barriers to accessing mental health care, largely due to, quote, staff shortages in rural facilities and transportation issues, end quote. There have been a few promising legislative steps in recent years. The VA expanded benefits eligibility to over 3.5 million veterans after the PACT Act was signed in August of 2022. The VA also launched a mobile application called VA Health Benefits, meant to centralize veterans' health and benefits information. The VA's Connected Care program seeks to bring broadband access to more rural places with limited capacity in order to support remote virtual care. Let's see. Still, there's significant work to be done. The VA must increase awareness and better explain VA benefits, reduce wait times for appointments, and ensure veterans can receive quality care. 2023 RAND study concluded that for veterans with limited access to a VHA facility or who are unable to access timely care, community care provides a potentially important resource. Most of all, Congress needs to provide oversight to see that the VA adheres to the guidelines outlined in the Mission Act, aimed at strengthening comprehensive health care for all veterans, especially those who suffer proportionately higher rates of health challenges, such as rural and tribal veterans, and that funds are being allocated effectively. Number 5, lack of proper transportation for disabled veterans. Transportation helps connect veterans to employment, regular healthcare visits, support services, and other necessities that are vital to a good quality of life. Lack of access to proper transportation or the funds to secure it can be a significant hindrance to veterans accessing their basic needs. In a Bureau of Labor and Transportation survey, nearly half of veterans reported that they travel more than 60 miles one way to receive medical services. A considerable number of veterans need specialized transportation as well. There are an estimated 5.27 million veterans, over one third of the veteran population, who identify as having a disability that requires transportation assistance. It's critical that veteran benefits include comprehensive transportation assistance, especially for veterans with a service-connected disability. In a promising step, the Auto Act was also signed into law in early January of 2023, allowing disabled veterans who need modified vehicles to receive a grant from the VA every 10 years rather than once in a lifetime. Nevertheless, additional efforts are needed by Congress and the VA to ensure all veterans have access to proper transportation and are aware of the transportation benefits available to them. This should include the periodic follow up with recently transitioned veterans, awareness campaigns around benefits, and a review of funding allocation for veteran transportation assistance. Now, one of the other ones that we talked about that I was kind of earmarking for being one of the more important issues that kind of talking about control, homelessness. And the reason I bring this up, our good friend Brian, who we mentioned several times, the show we mention all the time, he actually has done in his professional career as a counselor and whatnot, and his journey to go about that, has done quite a bit of outreach. And so his experiences with homelessness have kind of really struck a chord with me. So anytime it comes up, I make sure to take notice of it and pay attention to it. So here we go. Veterans have a higher likelihood than non-veterans of becoming displaced from their homes. Veteran homelessness is one of the top issues of concern for U.S. veterans. In a mission roll call poll of veterans nationwide, there are more than 90% of veterans say they do not think enough is being done to address veteran homelessness. The number of homeless veterans is increasing, rising from more than 7% from 2022 to 2023. On an average night in 2023, 20,067 veterans were living in shelters. A staggering 15,507 veterans were living without any shelter at all. There are also racial disparities. Black veterans are significantly overrepresented among homeless veterans, making up 31% of the homeless veteran population, but only 14 of the overall veteran population. 14%, excuse me. A number of interconnected factors are contributing to the rise in veteran homelessness, including gaps in mental health support and the growing disparity between housing costs and income. So they have the diagram here lists a bunch of different things. They have difficulties transitioning from activities of civilian life, gaps in mental health support, navigating the VA bureaucracy for access to benefits, legal difficulties, service-related disabilities, the growing disparity between housing costs and incomes, and then number 7 is substance abuse. Government efforts to solve this crisis are being made. In 2024, the VA set goals to permanently house at least 41,000 homeless veterans and ensure that 95% of them do not return to homelessness within the year. Also in 2024, Housing and Urban Development announced nearly $3.16 billion in Continuum of Care Program awards for over 7,000 projects that provide housing assistance and or support services to people experiencing homelessness. However, over $50.3 billion has been collectively spent on government programs since fiscal year 2005. Yet veteran homelessness and hunger persist. It's clear the money alone is not enough to fix this problem. Mission Roll Call advocates for more funding for community-based nonprofits and businesses that are on the front lines of many veterans' services. These services don't just address homelessness specifically, but they also target the root causes of homelessness. These community organizations have touch points in the veteran community that the VA will never have. And this last one was also important, but I wanted to mainly touch on the homelessness and then the when you get out missing the camaraderie and all that stuff, kind of helping with the control issue. So, number 7, being confronted with veteran stereotypes in entertainment and civilian life. There are several stereotypes and misconceptions that can negatively impact the daily lives of veterans. A 2021 study by the University of Cincinnati looked at common stigmas veterans face. Through in-depth interviews with veterans ages 20 to 60, it found the quote depictions of veterans in the news media and pop culture often carry negative associations such as poor mental health or violence, end quote. Respondents shared that views about military personnel are skewed by war movies that depict returning veterans as psychologically damaged by their experience, and many believe that these portrayals can lead to inappropriate and off base comments by civilian peers. Yet veterans have lower unemployment rates than non veterans as of July of 2024. Veterans are also more likely to be civically engaged than non veterans, and on average, veterans contribute more volunteer time in their communities than non veterans.
You
And
know
while
why I
the
think that is? That part is that's an important little spot right there.
oh yeah,
Um, you know why I think that is? Why I think we're far more civically involved, and it's gonna sound to our civilian peers out there. It's gonna sound kind of like I don't know. They're gonna probably think like, "Oh, you guys think you're better than me." Blah, blah. Yes. No, actually, no. I'm not gonna.
Jesus, dude.
Let me not go there. Let me not go there. But no, we understand the cost, right? We understand the
Yeah,
cost of what it takes to actually have the rights that we have. Our
yeah,
rights
because
are not free.
we've been to places where they don't have the rights and liberties and freedoms that we have. You
Yeah,
know, going over to like with you went to Iraq and I went to Afghanistan. It's like they weren't they weren't allowed to. They burned all the libraries and the books so they could keep them, deaf, dumb, and in the dark.
yeah,
Not or I'm sorry, not deaf, but just dumb and uninformed and in the dark and stuff.
no.
So
That's why I think the governmental system from the novel, not the film, but the novel Starship Troopers is one that is should be encouraged. Like you sh-
I
you
really
shouldn't
enjoyed reading that book.
you shouldn't
I only
in my
made it about
personal
two
opinion,
thirds of the way through it, but it was good.
yeah, you shouldn't be able to freaking serve in Congress or the Senate or any of these things when you don't understand what it costs to actually be responsible for defending a constitution as we defend it. That's
Well,
just my
some
personal opinion.
some European countries
You
take it a step further where they have to, in order to to be granted citizenship, you have to either have 2 years of military service or 2 years of governmental service as
know,
either doing something, to as an employee of the government or to
yeah.
be in the military.
Well, I think
So,
if you want to serve in government, you have to serve at least a bare minimum of 2 to 4 years in the military. No exceptions. No,
and
none at all.
and also to kind of double tap on your point too, excuse me. Um, I'd be curious to see like what the percentage rate of politicians nowadays are military veterans, especially now that like all these, we're way past we're at the back end and past the GWAT era. So a lot of these guys have gotten out and are now going into the public sector
Yeah,
as politicians and whatnot. And a lot of these guys were military, Green
I would.
Berets, all that
I
kind
would
of.
say. I would say it's probably most likely the same amount. Like if you factor in, the amount of congressmen and senators and things that we have, I would say out of all of them that serve in those aspects, I would say probably same percentage roughly as the amount of military veterans that live in the country.
Yeah,
That'd be my guess. It's there's not many of us.
no. Yeah, I'm thinking out loud. It's like yeah, I totally get what you're saying. So I agree. Um, all right, back to it. While the majority of veterans look up to people who have served in the military, there are still negative misconceptions that have permeated society. Adding to this, and unlike other high stress occupations such as law enforcement, medicine, or emergency response roles, veterans who enter the workforce usually aren't surrounded by people with similar experiences and perspectives. This continues to this contributes to gaps in understanding and they can be met with unrealistic or unfair assumptions about their capabilities.
Hey,
These
wait.
portrayals and misconceptions can have serious implications on veterans' mental health, careers, social lives, and overall well being. Workplaces, entertainers, and everyday people should be mindful of the inaccurate stereotypes impacting veterans and do all that's within our power to put an end to them. I'm not going to go any further on that one, Alamos. If you want to click out, you're good. Um, but again, so as I said in that last line there, we need to do what we can. We also, as veterans, need to understand that people are going to think what they're going to think. It's going to be outside of our control. And, like the Serenity Prayer says, sometimes you can't change the things around you. And it's like, it is what it is. So I think in order to, my kind of closing thought about this is, in order to have a good grasp on controlling things in our sphere or our realm of influence, we need to first master control of ourselves. Okay. Um, it's it's kind of one of those skills in society nowadays that's kind of a little bit fleeting, and it's something I would hope that people would get back to kind of to doing, whether it's through their own, introspective journey, or if it's from like external type of influences. I would imagine, are both of your boys in karate or just Jaden?
Taekwondo, but yes, both of them are.
Okay. Have you noticed a difference about them kind of like, with their, impulse control and, things like that since they started doing that process?
I mean, oh, but they're both kooky little freaking bastards, but um
That's not where I was going, dude, but whatever.
they I
You
would
can
say
Nobody
that
else can get away with that. You're good.
I I would say that they're far more disciplined in the things that they enjoy doing
Okay.
because of the training that they got from martial arts. Um, Martial arts has definitely taught them that um, there is reward in hard work that you put in, um, and we like to instill that in them pretty much every day. So we do the best we can to teach our kids that there is a benefit and a reward to be gleaned from hard work. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with putting in the work. Um, Laziness is definitely not encouraged here.
Gotcha. Yeah, and it's kind of the same thing with my daughter, just trying to get her to just have a little bit better self-control and of, primarily of just like the negative thoughts and stuff. Like she gets
Mhm.
kind of a little bit bummed down when other kids say things that are unkind or judgmental or whatnot. I'm like, sweetie, I said, you got to understand, it's like you're in sixth grade. Like, this is life for the next couple years. Like, middle school, like, it's an important time, but it also kind of sucks. Like, most people I know, they're just like, middle school, they're like, oh, terrible. 1 star, would not recommend. High school, I think, is a lot more formative and a lot more impactful to who you are going to become as an adult, because it's like it's the last big hurdle before you step over that threshold. It's like, holy shit, I'm grown and I need to figure this stuff out for myself, kind of thing. So, but and that's something that I'm constantly working on with her. Just try to keep a good mental headspace and all that kind of stuff. So control what you can, change what you can, understand there are things outside of the realm of your control, and just go about your day and try not to let other people's control of you, freaking
Mhm.
fuck up your thing. So
Yep. You can't control others and you can't control when things get out of control, but you
yeah,
can control yourself.
pretty much. So,
So,
thank you for bearing with us for this conversation. That article probably went a little bit longer than we'd hoped for. Not that we're trying to give, pretty much fly mission roll calls banner, but the article that we brought up, it kind of felt like it had a bunch of things to do with control, especially for leaving and transitioning out of the military, which is kind of one of the big topic points that we hit at the very beginning of this episode. So thank you for indulging us and bearing with us while we got through that. But that is our chit chat on control. Hopefully you heard something that kind of at least made you go, let me think about that a little bit deeper and kind of have a conversation with yourself about it. So, but that is our episode on that. We're gonna start closing things out and get out of here for this week. So, if you're new to the show, thank you so much for stopping by and checking it out. Hopefully, you liked what you heard. You can check out our other episodes on our YouTube channel. If you YouTube search Battle Bros Podcast, we've got all of our episodes up on that platform. You can go back and watch those anytime. They're great. Put on for like a long drive. Just put it on your phone, put it in your car. Just listen to the nonsense and ensues while you're driving somewhere. I do that all the time. But we've covered a great deal of things regarding the veteran community and military community. So it's important. So Alamo and I, like I said, we've known each other since high school. Became friends, joined the military a couple years apart. I graduated before him. I joined in 2003, a year after I graduated. And he joined in 2005 after he graduated high school. Alamo went active duty and served in Iraq. I went National Guard, ended up doing a deployment in Afghanistan. Very formative to who I am nowadays. And I'm sure Alamo could say the same thing. We ended up working together in the private sector at a retail shop here in Tampa. We also worked with a guy who we used to be pals with, a guy named John, who worked with us in our department. Yeah, only thing I can say that just sums it up perfectly is what a funny fucker. Like, dude, we did so much goofy shit at work just in the name of having a good time, and like nothing illegal, nothing dangerous, but just goofy shit, like veteran kind of humor. But we had a blast all working together. We all kind of went our own ways. um Fast forward quite a few years down the road, and Alamo's wife Tisha, who is such a wonderful human being, approached me about doing an event for her organization called Flipside Mentorship. If you have the chance to go check their website out, flipsidementorship.com, check it out. They are doing such amazing, wonderful things over there. Uh, Alamo and I, he doesn't have a choice because it's his wife, but Alamo and I obviously are partnered with them. We do an event with them once a year in the spring/early summer. It is just amazing time, amazing things we got going on. So it's awesome. She approached me about working an event with her, which led to what we do now. So I was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. We did it, had a great time doing it. Alamo and I um, just got back together and we're acting like complete knuckleheads. And then you approached me and you were like, hey, whoa, we should do that again. Yeah, we should do it again. So we started talking about what we would do, doing something. You brought up the idea of doing a podcast, and I was like, dude, I don't know shit about a podcast. And you looked at me and you said, dude, they put a monkey in outer space. How hard can it be? And I'm like, okay, that's pretty good logic there. So, um, kind of thought about it. It's on the back burner for a while. Well, later on, we found out that our good friend John gave in to some demons that he had or whatnot, and solved a temporary problem with a permanent solution. And he offed himself. And I found out from a friend of his on Facebook who had made a post about it, and then I was just like, wow, I was pretty floored. Contacted Alamo here, and I was like, dude, did you hear about John? And you were like, no, I got to contact him for his birthday. I was like, well, you can't because he's gone. Well, for me, that was kind of like the okay, it's put up or shut up time. And I was like, dude, that podcast, like, let's do this. So we started talking about what it was going to be about, what our message was going to be, the name of it, this, that, and the other. So we settled on the name Battle Bros Podcast. Um, and we started kind of started coming up with like, our brand and our identity, so to speak. So During this time, we came up with the Bros Code, and what the Bros Code is this 4 easy things you can remember. Because let's face it, there aren't too many easy days. There's days where things get shitty. There's days when things get hard. There's days when things just get unbearable. But if you can remember the 4 parts of the Bros Code, you've got a pretty good shot of making it through the day and then on to the next day and keep going forward from there. So if you can remember BROS, you're going to be fine. Okay. Be tenacious. No matter what you choose to do in life, do it with tenacity, do it with fervor, do it with, a vigor that other people don't have, no matter what that is, whether it's being a mentor, whether it's being a counselor, whatever your job title is, doesn't matter. Do it with tenacity. In the words of the great Ron Swanson, don't half ass 2 things, whole ass 1 thing. Tenacity. Be tenacious. Refuse to surrender. No matter what you do in life, there's going to be obstacles, there's going to be challenges, there's going to be, pitfalls, there's going to be things that happen that get you thinking like you want to quit, thinking like you want to, you know what, this is a bad idea. Let me turn around and head back to the starting line, the starting blocks. I don't want to do this anymore. Well, don't refuse to surrender. Okay. No matter what happens, you get knocked down in the dirt, somebody push you down, you're running a race, you fall off a cliff, whatever. Get yourself up, brush yourself off. If you need to, pull out your compass, reshoot your azimuth, orient yourself, keep going, go from there, refuse to surrender. Okay. Obliterate your obstacles. Kind of going along with the last one about refusing to surrender. Whatever those obstacles are, get past them, get around them, defeat them. Whether it's, getting across a river crossing with pretty good, rapids in the middle of the river, whatever the case may be, getting over a fence, digging under a fence, getting over a moat, okay, getting through a wall, go over it, go under it, go through it. By any means necessary, whatever it takes, obliterate your obstacles. Most importantly, seek out help in a time of need. As we mentioned with our friend John, he was a great guy that was worth knowing, and he is no longer with us, unfortunately. And if it meant that we didn't have this podcast, if he was still here because that course of events did not transpire, I'd be okay with that because he was a dude worth knowing. For whatever reason, a lot of times we feel like we have to go through things alone. And especially as veterans, I'm here to tell you that like we do better in a group. We're social creatures by design. We do better in a group. Okay. If you ever feel like you're in a bad spot, okay, reach out to somebody, a friend, a family member, a coworker, if they understand what's going on. If you have somebody who you served with that you're still friends with and you still talk to, that's a great resource to utilize. They can understand what you're going through and can kind of help talk you through some stuff. If you unfortunately don't have any of those options, there are different ways you can get help. If you feel like you're going to harm yourself, there is the suicide prevention hotline. You can contact them one of several ways. They have the hold on. Sorry. I think I just swallowed a bug. I'm not even lying. I felt something just go. Oh, that was terrible. All right.
Lovely.
Yeah, that was great. Freaking way to break the mood there. You can contact the National Suicide Prevention Hotline several different ways. You can contact them via their 800 number, 1-800-273-8255. Again, that's 1-800-273-8255, or just dial talk. 1-800-273-TALK. Tango Alpha Lima Kilo. You can also contact them with their 9-digit prefix, 988. Again, that is 988. You can also text them at 838-255. Again, that's 838-255. They have people there to help and offer assistance 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I believe you just have to select option 1 to speak to a live operator on the phone line, and they'll get you some help in your moment of crisis. But don't be afraid to use that resource. One of the things that we are trying to prevent is from this number getting any higher. This is a bracelet that I wear all the time from a company called Till Valhalla Project, and it is 22 a day, which signifies the average number of veterans who commit suicide. And we are trying to put a dent in that and get it to cease altogether eventually. So this is how we plan to do that. So if you can remember those 4 things: be tenacious, refuse to surrender, obliterate your obstacles, seek out help in a time of need, it's going to help you get through the day and get on to the next day and keep going from there. So please remember those and utilize them when you need them. Okay. And share them with somebody, share them with a friend, share them with somebody who needs it. Okay. But that is my piece of this, and I'm going to hand it off to Alamo here. He's going to finish up the closing out of the show, and then we're going to get out of here for this week. So take it away, dude.
Yeshuri Bob. So, social medias, we're on them. You want to find us? You could look at them. Go to facebook.com/battlebros.podcast. You can find us there on the Meta platform. You can also find us on Instagram at battlebros_podcast. If you want to find us on X, formerly known as Twitter, you can do so at Battle Bros PC. Just look it up, at Battle Bros PC. And on each one of those platforms, you could go ahead and instant message us. We're looking for feedback. We're looking for input on episodes. We're looking for input on anything. Hey, we did great on this episode, or hey, you guys sucked ass. Cool, that's great. We like the feedback, negative or positive. Whatever you guys think, even if it's just subjects you guys want to hear about and want to talk about, let us know right there on the platforms. If you find yourself wanting to send a message a little bit more privately, as the British would say, you can send it to battlebrospc@gmail.com. You can send it to, once again, that's battlebrospc@gmail.com, where we can actually check those messages and we have instant access to them. And we'll be able to look them over and, maybe even respond and say, hey, thanks for the feedback. And, or maybe you got a friend or a family member or whatever that you feel needs to hear this message, and you send us a message saying, hey, what do you guys think about if I try to send this person your way, to the YouTube channel? We'll be like, okay, yeah, sweet. And we'll be ready and raring to go on that. If you like hearing us on this platform, that's awesome. But if you like hearing us on other platforms, we're available on Spotify. We're also available on the Rumble, where you could go to rumble.com and just search in the search bar, Battle Bros, all one word, all lowercase. Oh, excuse me. Good God. That is Battle Bros, all one word, right there in the search bar on rumble.com. We're on multiple platforms, folks. We're on multiple platforms: Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, which is where you're seeing us live right now. But hey, we're open to being on many different platforms, and we want to be where you guys are. So yeah, we're having fun, and we hope you guys are enjoying us here. So
That's all you got?
that's all I got.
Well, folks, this is kind of the end of the conclusion of this episode for this week. This has been episode 121, entitled Control. Thank you for joining us as part of our conversation. We hope you took something away from our little chit chat.
Shit.
Please remember that a lot of the traction we're getting about this podcast, even though we've been doing this for 4+ years now, is still word of mouth is our best kind of means of getting the information out there, or getting ourselves known to those who do not know about us previously. So don't be afraid to pay it forward, pass it along. You never know who is going to benefit from hearing what we have to talk about. And we're not just saying that as an ego trip. We're just sincerely trying to help out the veteran population and whatnot. So
Sometimes the message may not be for you. Sometimes it may not be. Sometimes it may just be for someone else, and
and you're
you know
just the
that person.
vessel, and you're just the vessel that the message passes with. So um, again, folks, we cannot do this without you watching and or listening. So thank you so much for being part of this journey, whether it's just this episode, episodes past, or you've been with us the whole time. Um, it is truly an amazing thing that we've been able to experience doing this show. So thank you so much. Until next time, this has been episode 121 entitled Control of the Battle Bros podcast. My name is Mac. This is Alamo. We are the Battle Bros. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you down the road next time. Just remember, as always, be tenacious, refuse to surrender, obliterate your obstacles, seek out help in a time of need. You're going to have a good chance of being okay. So we'll see you down the road.
You guys rock. Battle Bros out.